And I'll tell you how I came to this conclusion, not because I read it from Secretary Gates' words, but because just prior to the supplemental appropriations vote, I decided that I was going to go, and I had been determined to go with a small group of women members of Congress to travel to Afghanistan and to try to identify people in country, whether they were our military folks or folks from our State Department or NATO forces or women in Afghanistan or parliamentarian leaders and others, to have all of those conversations and ask questions, because I wanted to know what would be the basis of my vote when that supplemental appropriations bill came forward. And on asking those questions and probing deeply in country, I was even more convinced than ever, that the approach that we're taking with respect to Afghanistan doesn't make sense. It's not a strategy, and it won't work. And so in the world of politics, of course, and I have been a tremendous supporter of President Obama. I'm so glad that he occupies the White House in this new administration, but I don't agree with him about Afghanistan. Now, I'm only learning, because I'm a bit of a newbie, that it is tough to be in Washington when virtually everyone is going one direction, and you choose to go in another direction. But I have to tell you that since taking that vote and reading the story after story in every newspaper report that you can find, whether they're coming out of this country or from around the world, in looking at the increased escalation of casualty and conflict in Afghanistan, I am actually more convinced today than I even was more convinced when I took that vote that it was the right thing to do. Now, we can all be, there's no sort of great moment in just being right about things. I mean, people are right about lots of things. There's nothing particularly important or salient about being right. But what is important is to continue to have a voice for peace, for dialogue, for civil society engagement that stands up front, because I believe that ultimately, that is the answer that is going to win at the end of the day. And those who are in one place today are going to have the aftersight to get in the right place tomorrow. And those of us who believe in peace have to continue to open up the space for people to move in the right direction. And so that's where I'll be in the Congress. I want to share with you also that I don't think that our view of what needs to take place or not in Iraq and Afghanistan can really be separated from the core of the problem that we face in the Middle East by not moving more directly and more appropriately toward a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine. And some of you may know that there's been a certain degree of anxiety and fire about my statements on these issues as well. And I think that there's plenty of room for dialogue. But what I will say, having returned from the Middle East, I guess over Memorial Day, and having spent time in Israel proper, on the West Bank and Ramallah and in Gaza, and talking to lots of different kind of people who shared a wide range of perspective in the region. Again, I'm even more convinced today that because of that, we need the strong leadership of the President of the United States and the Secretary of State to deeply engage and push Israelis and Palestinians and the greater Arab world toward a two-state solution, so that we don't just give words to it, but there really is implementation. And we cannot afford another American administration that waits until the 11th hour to say, oh, now I want to work on peace in the Middle East. That just won't cut it anymore.